Thank you and welcome back to the stories. This prompt is called Crossing the Border. I was in charge of 6 of these people. Charge maybe isn't the right word. Our souls were connected. I was younger than most of them and a gypsy of Jewish descent and clever enough to not have been caught yet. I was 23 years old, working for the underground. These were my people. Our DNA collided thousands of years ago. I know them, and I am known by them, and no words are needed for introduction. I'm taking one family across at this crossing. Simon is a tall, lanky tailor, about 6 feet, with curly black hair, brown eyes, and around 30. His wife, Rachel, has dark brown wavy hair, green eyes, and both have fair skin. Rachel is much smaller than Simon, about 5'2". They have a daughter, Rivka. She's 4, with red ringlets, rosy cheeks, full of life and hope, and has caught the terror of the group, which was palpable. There was Fanny. She was 50, gray hair, stocky, or zaftig, we say, with green eyes. She was Rachel's mother. She lost her husband Eddie early on. Her grief weighed on her like a wet wool jacket. You've taken all their precious belongings, anything that would guarantee them safe passage across the border, everything. Every last ring, bracelet, wedding band, all of it. They have no more to give you. You must help them pass, is what I'm always told. This was the deal. This is how it always went before the crossing. We were in the throes of World War II when people were fleeing Poland and Germany to safer surrounds, anywhere but here. Most people who could leave did so, if they were smart enough or could see into the crystal ball of the future, spying all the horrors of this war. There was always going to be stragglers, those left behind, the old, infirm, frightened people who lost most of their families. There were people who came out of hiding and had to move on as it was so dangerous for their brave hosts. All were pariahs, outcasts, gypsies, Jews, gays, and those who found a way to stay out of the oven so far, all looking to cross the border to safety. Annie was there, Fanny's sister, with her husband Irv. Annie looked like Fanny, only with red hair. Irv was a big man, not so much in height, just size, strong and thick with short gray hair. He had big hands. These were the 6 I was to get across the border into Switzerland, where they would find their way to the promised land of America. Their families, those who left earlier, were waiting anxiously in New York of any news of their whereabouts. Once there, they would start their lives over, or so was the dream they held en masse. This nightmare of human suffering would be behind them, while they carried on with life, embracing the memories of their murdered families and friends, woven in a vest of emotion, spun around and through their hearts. I have made this crossing previously, helping others, and while I was successful before, I never knew if the next time would bring death to any of us, or worse. And so here they were, 6 fragile, vulnerable people, frightened, hopeful, and determined, all depending on me for negotiation. My insides were broiling at the thought of needing more money than we had, of possibly leaving someone behind, of being shot. All of these events were possible, and all we had were each other's courage and belief that we'd make it. We traveled long and hard on foot through the forest with little to eat, some bread and cheese from the underground's larder. We slept on the floor of the forest, lulled into unconsciousness by Mother Earth, even if only for a few hours at a time. We set up guard shifts. Someone had to stay awake to warn the rest, should we need to run and hide again. We were a people of severed nerves. Yet everyone helped the other, soothing them and raising confidence. I've never met people like this, souls so deep and ancient, with a knowing that spanned lifetimes. They all thanked me profusely, even before the border, as they appreciated me risking my life and remained in disbelief around that commitment. You see, each time I brought a group to safety, I thought I'd go with them. I could have actually left, started my life over, and yet I couldn't, not really. My destiny was this, just this for now, helping others across, my burden, my joy, my life, till the war was over, or I was killed, or I changed my mind. This insanity started when I lost my family to the camps. Everyone. What was left that had meaning? Who would I share it with? Why couldn't I have saved them? I know when my grief is over, I'll move on and cross the border myself. But for now, this is my cross to bear. My heart has been ripped apart by loss. It lies in my chest, ravaged in barbed wire of my own making. I am the only one to undo my suffering. With each group, more of the wire unfurls, so this deed is for all of us. We've arrived. It's time. And I'm armed and willing to kill for this passage to safety. It's not my first choice. It just is. There is one SS officer at this tiny outpost. In the trees on the other side are more volunteers from the underground waiting with food, clothing, and fake passports. Everyone in the group knows the drill by heart. The taste of freedom is right on the tips of their tongues, mixed with the acrid taste of fear. And we go forward. I speak German and tell the border patrol some tale of these people. They are Germans, just like him, and the war was useless and cruel. What difference would it make to the world to let these people pass? I go on like this for a while, and for some strange reason, he's actually listening to me and looking at me with great sorrow in his eyes. I bring out their jewelry, and there's something about the rings and their bits of life that I held in my hands, begging for passage, that makes this young man cry. He's overcome with the trials of war, the fallout of useless death, and he puts his gun down. And just like that, lets my people pass and can't take the payment. He's seen too much. He ended up here in this very remote border because he had a nervous breakdown some months ago at his regular job in the camps. He started losing his mind as his soul could not process the horror. So he was sent to a hospital near this station, and when he recovered enough for duty, he was stationed here. The thinking was he'd heal out here in the forest and not need much care. He did heal. He remembered who he was as a human and how he had the chance to right so many wrongs. As I heard his story, I fell in love with him. He sent my group ahead with their belongings. I could see as they were some distance from the crossing, the other volunteers running to greet them. They were safe, and generations of my people will be free. I walked back to this young man to get to know more about him. He is my age, and his name is Rolf. We knew a bond was created between us, two people whose hearts were fighting for love. Rolf was ruggedly handsome, light hair, 6'2", blue eyes, very Germanic. And yet he had gentle hands, the hands of an artist, clearly not a killer. I continued to use this border to bring groups of people to freedom till the war ended 2 years later. In the meanwhile, Rolf and I grew to know each other in the only way people can in such distressing times, deeply and profoundly. Our demeanor softened over time. We were less afraid. There was strength in knowing each other that kept us safe, not only in the world, but in ourselves and our world together. There was beauty here. Sometimes, when I arrived, Rolf would have little gifts for me made from nature, delicate and lovely, a little house made of branches and leaves, foreshadowing our future. I would often stay overnight with him, and we'd sleep clutched to one another as if our lives depended on it, and squeeze these moments of delight and depth into our souls till the next time. When the war ended less than 2 years and a lifetime later, I was the first to know. I came running to him with a tiny sack filled with the remains of my life. Rolf knew when he saw me that Germany had lost, and the horror he had endured was over. We had made plans of our own. We had unrealized dreams to bring alive. And without hesitation, and just like the groups before us, we walked down the worn path of broken branches and leaves, through the sun, into the unknown, and our new life together. The end. Thank you for listening.